Hello, today I'm going to be taking a look at Wingspan, a 1 to 5 player engine building game from Stonemaier Games. A lot of talk about this one over the last 18 months or so. People seem to love it and hate it in equal measure. I will take a quick look at how it plays and then offer a few thoughts and hopefully help you decide whether this is a game that you would enjoy.
So here's Wingspan set up and ready to play. What we can see on the table is our resource supply, our available resources in the dice tower. We have our deck of cards that we're going to draw from and the cards that are currently available to choose from. In the corner we have our end of round objectives. We have our personal bonus card, skip secret till the end of the game, 8 action cubes, starting resources and starting hand of cards. In the centre is our player mat. I do only have one out at the moment, but normally each player would have one of these each, and this is the board that they would use personally throughout the game. All that remains to do in the game is take our initial hand of cards and choose which ones we are going to keep and which ones we are going to return to the deck. And the way that we would do this is we will pay a resource for each card that we're going to keep. So if I choose to keep 3 cards, I would discard 3 resources. In a game of Wingspan, the aim is to place as many bird cards as you can onto your personal player board with the aim of generating the most points by the end of the game. In order to do that, there are 4 actions you can choose from that relate to playing a bird card, taking resources, or drawing new cards. The way it works is you'll take one of your action cubes and you'll place it in the leftmost free space of the player board to signify that you've taken that action. We don't have any birds on the player board at the moment, so what I'll do is I will play a bird card as my first action. To play a bird card, you need to pay resources and ensure that the bird is placed in its correct habitat. In the top left hand side you have the habitats. This hummingbird can go into any habitat that's listed on the board, and the resources are this symbol here, and in this particular case you can pay any resource to place the hummingbird into any habitat. That's quite a nice card to play, and I will pay, in this case I'll pay the slug, and I will place the hummingbird in the lay eggs space on the board. That action is free. Should I wish to choose to place a second bird in this space here, I would need to pay the cost at the top, which is an egg, in addition to that printed on the card. That would be the end of my turn. The next player would then take their turn and it would come back around to me, and in this instance perhaps I will in fact lay eggs in this action. So place the cube in the leftmost free space in that column, take the 2 eggs. I do have the option of paying a resource to lay another egg, but I won't do that in this instance. Take the 2 eggs and I'll place it on the bird because it can take 2 eggs, and then I will slide the cube along. And what that brown action on the card tells me is that when the card is activated, I can take a resource cube from the bird feeder and add it to my supply, my personal supply. And I think in this case I will take the corn. That would be the end of my turn, and other players will take their turn and it'll come back for my third action. And perhaps in this instance I'd like to draw a card. So I'll place the cube in the draw card action, and then I can take the number of cards printed on the board. Here we can only take 1, and I have the choice of either taking 1 from the available display or 1 from the top of the deck. What I'll do in this case is I'll take 1 from the top of the available supply. When I have finished taking all the cards that I wish to take, I then refresh the display. Other players would then take their turn, and it would be my 4th action. And here I might take I might play another bird card. And And so what I'll do now is I will pay a corn to place the woodpecker into the forest habitat. And again, that is free because there is no cost at the top of the player board. Again, that's the end of my turn, and now it's time for other players to take their turn before it comes back round to me. And what I'll do next is I will take food from the bird feeder. I do have the option here, or I can take one food, and I'll take the corn again. Then I have the option of paying a card to take a second resource, which I will do. I'll take the fish. Now, in the resource tray, in the dice tray, we have two dice of the same type. And when the next player has their turn, what they are allowed to do is they're allowed to re-roll all the dice because there is only a single type of resource showing. And if that person chooses not to, when it comes back around to me, I have the option of doing so instead. Once all 8 actions are played, and the board might look something a bit like this, we then have a look to see which player has achieved the relevant the goals printed on the goal card at the top here. And in the more competitive version of the game, the person who has come first will place their cube in the leftmost space. Other players will then place behind it. Then the next round starts, and you begin your round with less actions. Further on in our game now, we will have a look at how the powers activate. And if I wish to place a action cube in the lay eggs action, I first would take 4 eggs and place them on any of the bird cards with available space in their nests. You can go on any of them that have space. And then I'll move along. In this particular instance, it tells me to gain a corn from the supply, place it on the card, and that resource on the card is now points at the end of the game. The next action is a pink action, and these only occur once per round on another player's turn or between another player's turn, and that is after a successful action that they have taken. So this is a benefit gained from another player doing something else, so it does not activate at this point. Then we have a card that tells us to tuck a card from our hand behind the bird, and if we just pretend I had a card in my hand for the time being, you'd slide it behind in order to generate the effect that it tells you. So in this case it's get a resource, and again cards tucked behind like that are points at the end of the game. We move our action cube along again, and it's telling us we can claim a resource from the bird feeder as before. And so as the game progresses, more and more birds get placed into the player board, and each time you take one of those 4 actions, the effects that you can do grow and grow and grow, become an engine. However, the number of actions you can do total will reduce over time as they are placed on the objective board at the top of the screen. How do you score points in Wingspan? Each bird card has a point value on it. In this particular case it's 2. And you would add up all of the points values of all the cards in your personal display. You will also score points for each token cached on a card, for each card tucked behind another, for each egg that you have on your personal display. If you've managed to complete your objective, you will also score points, and then you score points for the end of round bonuses as well. Once you've added all those together, the person with the most points wins the game.
So what do I think about Wingspan? Well, a lot of the reviews that I've read and the comments that I've seen have mentioned themes, so let's talk about that first. And the theme is birds and bird watching and running or attracting birds to your wildlife sanctuary. It's a theme that is quite different from many other themes in board games. It's one that I personally have no particular interest in outside of board games. However, for me, that doesn't stop me playing the game. I have no interest in winemaking, but I'll still play viticulture, and the same could be said for medieval necromancy in Zombicide Black Plague. So it's a theme that will attract people who are perhaps not keen on the traditional dragons and dungeon crawling type games. So I think personally that it is a good nice theme, something different, and there is a space in this hobby for a theme like this. If you really don't like the theme, then I'm sure you may be better off looking elsewhere. But if you can get past the theme, perhaps pretend they're feathered dinosaurs or something, then there is actually quite a lot of interesting things going on in Wingspan. One of the things that I personally like about Wingspan is the slow build-up of the engine and the effects produced by placing the cards into your personal display, and the way you can tailor each engine slightly differently depending on what comes out of the card draw. It's not a huge sprawling engine that you might find in a game like Terraforming Mars, for example, and because it is more contained, you do only have those available slots on the player board. It's easier to manage. It's easier to introduce newer players to the hobby, to the game. Having said that, there is quite a large degree of luck in the game. Some of the scoring is literally based on the luck of the draw, with the bird effects relating to hunting, for example, where you draw a card off the top, check to see what the wingspan of the bird on the card is, and if it's lower than a certain number, you might put it behind the card. And so it is perhaps more random than I would like to see in a game that requires a fair bit of strategy and planning. However, it is suitably thinky enough for me to want to play it again and again and again, and I have played it many times over the last year or so that I've had the game. In terms of the components, Wingspan is a fantastic production. The cards are all well illustrated with nice sort of linen finish to them. Even the rulebook has a linen finish. The iconography is clear, and it's easy to understand once you know what all the different icons mean. The game is full of nice touches, like this bird feeder that acts as a dice tray. It's entirely unnecessary, but it adds a lovely little something to the overall experience. And in many ways, that's what stands Wingspan out from many other games. It's the overall package and how the game is put together, how it plays, how it looks and feels, and it is a very attractive game in that sense. Overall, if you like games that require some planning, that are perhaps one step above the gateway level games, then Wingspan is definitely a game you should at least consider. It does play extremely well and is a very good game as a next step for somebody who has perhaps played Magic Horror or a similar entry level game. It may not be for you if you're looking for a very deep, very strategic game that requires a lot of planning and very little luck. Overall, though, I personally do very much enjoy the game. I'm very glad that I do have it in my collection, and I hope this has been helpful in deciding whether or not you would also enjoy playing Wingspan. Thank you very much. Please do like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.